10 sacks this week against Illinois State. All right, we got a couple more things to touch on here on Locked On Sooners. Was there some tampering with R. Mason Thomas at the end of last year? And we got a Sooner target that is about to make his decision. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Something that was very interesting that came out from the Rudy's Barbecue Coaches Show was that R. Mason Thomas was being offered 7 figures to leave Oklahoma at the end of last year. Jay, this has Miami written all over it.
Oh, yeah. That's 100% the Miami Hurricanes. Yes, I am calling out for tampering. I have zero proof whatsoever. In theory, I have zero proof. But it just to sound like something that Mario Cristobal and them would do down there. And I get it. I mean, it's R. Mason Thomas. Yeah. The kid's talented. Like, I expect multiple schools going after a kid that's, from the area and trying to get them to come back and play. I mean, we lost, Jalil Farouk to Maryland because he went back home to play ball at Maryland. So I can understand if they would want R. Mason Thomas because he's already got the statistics that you're looking for on a defensive lineman, and he's got the capability. So, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's a Florida boy, so why wouldn't they go after him?
Yeah, I could have seen Florida State coming too, or maybe even Florida. Those bags are going to be full, and R. Mason Thomas is one of those dudes that's worth emptying the clip for. He's a really, really good player. You have 9 sacks, 6 of which came in the SEC on a team that didn't give you very favorable game scripts. I was actually looking it up for a piece I wrote over at Sooners Wire on Monday, and R. Mason Thomas had 242 pass rush snaps, or 243 pass rush snaps last year. That was just one more than Colin Simmons, the true freshman for Texas. But do you know where Colin Simmons ranked among Texas defensive linemen in pass rush snaps? 5th. So there were 5 guys on Texas's roster that had as many or more pass rush snaps than R. Mason Thomas. And R. Mason Thomas led the Sooners in pass rush snaps last year. That just tells you how many or how few opportunities he actually got to rush the passer compared to some of the guys that are considered the elite pass rushers in college football or on some of these other really good defenses. You give him 350 pass rush snaps, and this kid might break Oklahoma's sack record this year. I know that was one of Teddy's bold predictions on their bold prediction show, is that he's going to have 14 and a half sacks and break Oklahoma's single season sack record. If Oklahoma gives him 350 or 330 pass rush snaps, I'm not saying it's impossible. I think it's very well possible, especially in some of these games we got in the first half of the season.
Yeah, you got a lot of teams that's going to be trying to pass the ball because we're dealing with a lot more teams this year that don't have that veteran running back that we're used to seeing. Like last year, you had Sampson over there at Tennessee. You had was that Ahmad Hardy over there at Missouri. LSU was the only one that really didn't have much of a running game going on, but Caden Durham showed up and he showed out. Same thing with Texas. I mean, they had a whole bunch of injuries, but they still was pound the ball as much as possible when it comes to running. Same thing with Auburn. They had Hunter. So a lot of these teams had veteran running backs. This year, it's now they've got their young players that's basically moving up the chain as far as the running game goes. Michigan's bringing in, Justin Haynes from Auburn, from Alabama, and he did okay at Alabama. He wasn't one of their lead backs, but they're going to try to make him into a lead back there at Michigan. So for Oklahoma, we're going to see a lot of teams that have new running back systems that may end up leading them into passing the ball. We stopped a lot of teams from being able to run on us like they wanted to. Mm-hmm. We held a lot of teams under their average, especially in the run game. We were considered one of the top 10 running defenses in the country. So with that being said, the question is going to be if Oklahoma's facing the offensive line is good, a defensive line as good as it was, and they're doing a really good job of stopping the run, John. teams are going to have to pass the ball, which means our Mason Thomas may have an opportunity, especially if there's more second and longs and third and longs. They're going to have a big-time opportunity for him to rush the passers more often. And if he's doing that, yeah, he could have an opportunity to break that record because I could see him having some multiple sack games quite often.
Well, teams that played Oklahoma last year, once they got a lead, they were very content to run the ball 3 times and punt it because they knew Oklahoma's offense wasn't going to be able to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
They did not want to give R. Mason Thomas an opportunity for a strip sack or to force their quarterback into an interception. Because when that happened late in games, it generally did not pay off for them. So that's not going to be the same situation for teams this year. They're going to have to throw the ball to either keep up with Oklahoma or to extend a lead against Oklahoma because Oklahoma's offense isn't going to go quietly into the night. They're going to keep battling, and they're actually going to be pretty good this year. And they're going to give this Oklahoma Sooners defense an opportunity to play with some leads. And that's going to create an opportunity for some bigger splash plays from the defensive line, from the secondary, getting turnovers, getting sacks. So it's going to be big. Last thing we want to touch on here, Jay, T'Ron Richardson is going to be making his announcement on Tuesday. And that's exciting times for Oklahoma. They're in the mix with Virginia Tech. Where do you think this one's going to land, Jay?
Ooh, this one's a tough one, but I've been doing some searching through some of the recruiting sites, and it feels like a lot of people are slowly leaning Oklahoma for T'Ron, and T'Ron's another one of those players that's under the radar on the defensive line. And one thing that we do know that Oklahoma needs is more young defensive linemen, mainly, especially projects, mainly because our D-line is still super young with Stone, Jaden Jackson, with Marcus Strong's Trent Wilson. You got a pretty solid group of young interior guys, Nigel Smith, that are not going to be gone anytime soon. Let's just put it that way. And because they're not going to be gone for a while, as Nagy mentioned, when you're paying a 5-star player, your expectation is they're going to play. Mm-hmm. I think that's why they went after Jake Krill, because they expect Jake Krill to play like next year. Like he's going to come in here and he's probably going to be in the 2 deep immediately because that room gets thinner. You're going to have some projects to go along with someone that's like, nope, ready to go. Throw him out there on the field. He's ready to play. But D-line, you got a lot of redshirt sophomores, and yeah, you're not dealing with a bunch of juniors and seniors. You've got a bunch of sophomores. So as next year comes in, a whole bunch of redshirt juniors and everything playing together, that's going to give you a good foundation of players that you can build upon. And you're going to, of course, go for some big-time name players next year that you're hoping could come in. If they're good enough, go and start.
Yeah, T'Ron, a guy that's 6'5", 290 already. You get him into Oklahoma's strength and conditioning program, you get 20, 30 pounds more on him, and the dude could be a force.
Nasty.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued and very encouraged by this. Again, you add him to the group that Oklahoma's already recruited for 2026, and it's a strong defensive line recruiting class. And then you throw him in the mix at defensive tackle, along with Stone and Jaden Jackson and Trent Wilson, Nigel Smith for next year, Marcus Strong, and that's a really good group. Brian Harris is going to be a part of that group. The kid that committed last week, I'm blanking on the name. Tank Carrington. Yep. That's a really strong defensive line class, dude. And it, again, just keep pushing forward. Don't sleep on all these recruitments, even if they don't look like they're going your way right now. Things could change. And we know Oklahoma's going to play defensive tackles, and they're going to play a rotation of them. You're going to have 4 guys with over 300 snaps, and it's going to give everybody a good opportunity to play. Any parting notes here before we get out of here, Jay?
Just know that next week when we talk about this Michigan game, there is a ton of visitors coming for the Michigan game. And in that game, we'll talk to you all about a depth chart because that's going to be the one that's going to actually matter. Now, let me
will
go
they
ahead and
release a
preface
depth
this.
chart, though?
Let me preface this. I do sense they'll release a depth chart. They always do, but I could totally see them trolling and it not look anything like what happens at the game.
Yeah.
I can totally see them trolling us because why not? People are going to overreact no matter what, good or bad. So go for it.
Yeah. And they just in their offices and laugh at us. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts for free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit the subscribe button. It costs you nothing to do that. So just please hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams and read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner. They're going to troll us.
I'm for it. That's what college football's for.